In Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan takes the high ground over Anakin, effectively ending the duel. This is because it ignites Anakin's arrogance and emotions. The high ground is the catalyst which led to Anakin's downfall, as he desired to prove that he had the strength and power to defeat his master in the same iconic way Kenobi beat Maul on Naboo. So what if none of this happened? What if Obi-Wan didn't have the high ground? The fight would continue, and Anakin and Obi-Wan would continue to swing at each other with unfathomable speed. Kenobi raised Anakin and taught him everything he knows about the Force. He taught him how to wield a saber, and because of that, they have dueled hundreds of times in their lives. This is why the duel is so fast and smooth. They know each other's styles almost as well as their own. Obi-Wan is considered the master of Form 3 Sorsu, the defensive form. The idea of this fighting style is to wear your opponent down by making the duel take a long time. Anakin uses all of his strength and aggression he has, attacking constantly, believing he always has Kenobi on the back foot. But this was part of Kenobi's plan. Right when Anakin had expelled all of his attacks, Kenobi finally strikes, and I believe that if Obi-Wan didn't have the high ground, he would have still eventually defeated his apprentice because he knew his fighting style better than anyone. Obi-Wan knocked Anakin to the floor, taking his saber and leaving him defenseless. The Jedi Master stares at his old friend. He is unarmed, on the ground. For a moment, Kenobi thinks about taking the life of his apprentice. He deserves it. He slaughtered the entire Jedi Order, killed younglings. He is exactly what the Jedi raised him to kill. But this is Anakin, his friend, his brother. He knows that it's not the Jedi way to kill an unarmed prisoner. As Obi-Wan contemplates what to do, raising his saber above his head, Padme rushes over and screams at Kenobi to stop. She had woken up from being choked unconscious. As Padme reaches the Jedi, she is filled with tears, staring at the man who was her husband. What had happened to him? How had he been corrupted so quickly? She begins to speak to him. Anakin was a ball of anger on the lava bank. He tells them to leave him or kill him. He can't stand the sight of him. Skywalker was convinced that Padme had sided with the Jedi, and even more grievously, Obi-Wan himself. But Kenobi and Amidala explained that Anakin is simply consumed by the dark side. Obi-Wan and Padme aren't together, and the Jedi, although they may have become too political, are not evil. Obi-Wan would simply explain to Anakin about the events that have transpired from his perspective, and how it clearly shows that it is Palpatine who is evil. His entire life, Anakin was raised to defeat the Sith. Now he has joined them, and to join them, he had to kill children. That in itself should explain that it is the Sith who are at fault. Padme encourages Anakin to think about their unborn child. They don't want to grow up knowing their father is a murderer, knowing that he killed children. Think about his mother. Her kind heart and soul did not raise her boy for this. He was seduced by Palpatine his entire life. Obi-Wan asked Anakin to think back on anything that could link to Palpatine's manipulations. Anakin recalled being taken to the underworld of Coruscant throughout his years as a teenager by Palpatine. They visited bars and watched the corrupt senators as they did their dealings, and crime permeated right under the Jedi's noses. Anakin explained that story calmly, and it was at that point that Kenobi knew they could turn him back. He told Anakin to think deeper. The Chosen One explained the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, something that Obi-Wan instantly said must be a contemporary Sith, as the Jedi have no knowledge of him. When Anakin explained that Plagueis knew how to save people from death, Padme implored Anakin to use his wisdom. Palpatine was manipulating him, making him believe that he had to use the dark side. Things were clicking into place in Anakin's mind, and he realized that he was an idiot. Palpatine had used him for his own gain, and now he was done for. Even a few days ago, he made him kill Dooku. He cast aside his own apprentice to make space for his ascendancy. At this moment, Anakin Skywalker would reject Palpatine as his master. He didn't fully turn back to the light. How could he, after everything he had done? That would take time. But for now, he was able to get back on his feet and join his friend and wife as they go back to their ship and leave Mustafar. Together, the three of them traveled to Naboo for the time being. Padme, who after being choked by Anakin, was thrusted into labor. Kenobi remained with Anakin as he watched his wife give birth. Skywalker was absolutely terrified, and he had convinced himself that she was about to die. But to his dismay, she survived, and he couldn't have been more pleased. He hugged his newborn children, and for a moment, as he held Luke and Leia and smiled at Padme, he was complete. He didn't need anything else. This was everything he had fought so hard for. He didn't care about the Jedi or the Sith. He just needed his family to be safe. Padme looked at Anakin and told him that their children will always be in danger as long as the Emperor lived. He would constantly search for them and try and turn them to the dark side or even kill them. Anakin knew she was right, and he knew that one more fight remained with the Dark Lord. Palpatine would eventually go to Mustafar, and he didn't locate Anakin. Through the Force, Palpatine's senses had told him that Anakin was gone. He believed his apprentice to be dead. News of Anakin's perceived death spreads, and the entire Republic mourns his loss. He was the poster boy of the Clone Wars, and beloved in the Republic. Palpatine would claim him as a martyr to manipulate the Senate and secure control. Sidious explained that the Jedi killed Anakin, as Anakin was the only one who tried to stand up against their treachery. This further created instability in the Empire for the Jedi. Obi-Wan and Padme worked together to hide Anakin from the Empire, helping him regain his sense of self and his connection to the light side of the Force. Anakin had returned, seeing his children had purged him of his dark side and Sith ways, but nothing could rid him of the damage he had caused. All he could do now was accept that he had made terrible mistakes and try and earn forgiveness through helping the Jedi right his wrongs. As for Yoda, he would lose to Palpatine like in Revenge of the Sith and flee Coruscant with the help of Bail Organa. He meets up with them on Naboo, and he was not pleased with Anakin being there. Yoda was rigid, and all of the carnage that had occurred was because of Anakin. But after a conversation with Kenobi, the Grand Master allowed Anakin to remain, understanding that his power would be crucial in the fight against Sidious. Ahsoka Tano would also make contact after escaping Order 66, and Obi-Wan would send their location to her as she makes her way to meet up with them. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Ahsoka, that was their team. The question is whether their combined strength would be enough to defeat the Empire. As Yoda left Coruscant, he had seen the strength of the Empire. They couldn't just walk back into the capital of the Republic. It doesn't work like that. To get back in front of Sidious, they had to fight their way in. Ahsoka questioned how this would work. There's only 4 of them. But Padme, who was still recovering from birth, said that she would speak to the Queen and would be able to get the Naboo army on their side. Kenobi knew that wouldn't be enough, and he made plans with Bail to go to Alderaan to see if they could increase their allies. Thus, Padme would go with the Jedi to meet with the Queen, who was at first very hesitant to send the Naboo army into combat. It sounded like certain defeat and ostracization in the newly formed rebellion. But Padme pleaded and explained how if the Empire is allowed to remain and increase their control, Palpatine's dictatorship will never be stopped and Naboo will never be safe. Palpatine was a tyrant. He had taken power for himself and destroyed the Jedi Order, painting them as evil. He has now destroyed democracy, and it is their duty to get it back. Padme had a lot of influence in the Naboo courts and Queen's inner circle, as both a past ruler and the current senator. Her word almost carried as much weight as the Queen herself. Thus, the Naboo armies began preparing for battle. While they prepared, Yoda would work with Anakin. Yoda helped Anakin regain his tether to the light. In all honesty, Yoda despised doing this. He was a moral Jedi, a good man, but he couldn't help but feel immense level of pain and anger whilst being around Anakin. He had destroyed his family, his way of life, his happiness, and now he was supposed to help this boy. But he knew that this would be for the betterment of the galaxy. These lessons involved Anakin divulging his thoughts and what drove him to the dark side. Once they pinpointed his connection to Padme, he focused on that. Padme is what kept him grounded in the light. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka joined the Royal Naboo generals and Queen as they traveled to Alderaan to receive help. They spoke to Bail, who like Padme had significant sway over the leadership of Alderaan. Alderaan was even more skeptical than Naboo was. Even in the Clone Wars, Alderaan had managed to remain relatively peaceful, offering their help by sending resources and Bail fighting the political arena on Coruscant. But there was little physical fighting from the planet, but that didn't mean they didn't have the capabilities to fight. In fact, Alderaan had one of the largest armies in the Republic, full of able and capable soldiers. When war broke out, Republic gunships and cruisers were sent to the planet in case of an invasion. When Alderaan agreed to help, these warships were brought out. Padme stayed behind to look at their newborn children. Over the last few weeks, she had rekindled her love for Anakin and knew that he was a better man. All she wanted was his love. Anakin hugs young Luke and Leia and explains that he will see them soon. The Jedi leave with the Naboo Royal Army and Alderaan Army and go to Coruscant. The battle would begin with the Republic fleets shooting down upon the Imperial fleet bordering Coruscant's atmosphere. This was currently only 3 Star Destroyers, very weak compared to the other defensive fleets. This is because no one expected such a strong assault only a week after the establishment of the Empire. In theory, it was pure idiocracy. When news reached Palpatine of the assault, he ordered dozens of ships to be sent to protect his borders. This led to a gigantic battle in space as starfighters battled off against TIE fighters, and the Republic attempted to find a way through the Imperial defenses. Anakin rallied the troops and knew they were about to break through. There was one thing that Anakin Skywalker was extremely good at, and that's leading troops into battle. As the colossal battle rages in the vastness of space, with massive starships firing streams of lasers and countless starfighters weaving through explosions. Bright flashes and the roar of engines fill the void as fleets crash in a desperate struggle for victory. Finally, the Republic breaks through, destroying one Star Destroyer, which causes a domino effect and the entire fleet falls. Alderaan and the Naboo armies alongside the Jedi descend into Coruscant, and starfighters remain in the sky as Republic gunships deliver ground forces to the true battle. The streets of Coruscant were filled with blaster fire and explosions. Stormtroopers quickly rallied to the defensive, setting up a perimeter around the Senate building as key areas on Coruscant. As Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, and Ahsoka are released into the chaos, they ignite their sabers and begin slicing down troopers. They had to forget that these men were once clone troopers, their friends fighting under their command. This was particularly difficult for Anakin and Ahsoka, who noticed the sapphire stripes over the shoulders and helmets of certain clones, signifying they are from the 501st Legion. Together, the Jedi fight their way through the Senate building. For the Republic forces, they are trying to break through the defenses of stormtroopers and cannon fire. But the Jedi have a different task, the most important task of all: find and kill Emperor Palpatine. Only then can this nightmare truly be over. The Jedi, alongside some soldiers and Bail Organa, fight through troopers to get to the base of the Republic Executive Building, as Kenobi questions the exact area they are in, realizing that this location has no direct entrance to the building for at least 300 meters. Stormtroopers appear from all sides and raise their blasters. Turning around, they see Bail Organa shoot the Alderaan soldiers and Naboo generals. Ahsoka jumped, and Kenobi asked what on earth he was doing. Organa lowered his head, tears filling his eyes. They were surrounded, dozens of troops locked and loaded. As Anakin prepared for the incoming fray, Yoda told him to wait. They couldn't win this fight. As the Jedi stared in disbelief at Organa, Emperor Palpatine approached. Ahsoka subtly presses a beacon on her comlink, which sends an alert to the Naboo troops of their position. This alert essentially means they are in trouble. Bail apologizes, saying that he didn't have a choice. Palpatine has his wife and he will kill her if he doesn't help him, and he had to tell them of their plan to invade. Palpatine cackles as Bail crumbles, mocking the Jedi and believing his victory was certain. He thanks Bail for his help before he snaps his neck with the Force, explaining that he is now reunited with his wife as promised. Sidious would look upon Anakin, where the Sith Lord explains that he has wasted his potential, and now after he dies, he will go and kill his wife. But Anakin says that everything he has ever said is false. Padme was never in danger, only from him, and now he has realized the true nature of the Force, and that Sidious will forever be alone and powerless. The smirk dissipates from the Emperor's face. He's had enough time playing. He orders the troopers to kill the Jedi. As the stormtroopers raise their blasters, Naboo troops arrive from all sides due to Ahsoka's beacon and begin shooting the stormtroopers, creating enough distraction for the Jedi to ignite their sabers and begin fighting. As chaos ensues, the Jedi slice down as many troops as possible before leaving the rest to Naboo warriors to destroy. The Jedi would race after Palpatine, who is running through the Republic Executive Building. The Sith Lord darts into his office, where the Jedi swiftly follow. He was back at his desk, the place where all of this began, where Anakin pledged himself to join the dark side of the Force. As the Jedi tell him to surrender, Palpatine pulls out his comlink and executes Order 41, a contingency order which calls all stormtroopers to his position immediately. This is the only way he can survive. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Yoda push forward and begin fighting Sidious. It was clear who had the stronger chance of winning. Sidious had to hold on until the stormtroopers arrived. Ahsoka fought confidently, using her two sabers in unison to coordinate her attacks. Kenobi was the opposite, understanding that he fought best when he remained on the defensive, and used his attacks only when necessary. Anakin and Yoda were the difference though, the two greatest fighters in the Order. Since Anakin turned to the dark side, his powers had risen, and even him alone could have beaten Sidious. As the four all attack at once, Palpatine simply can't defend everyone, and Anakin severs Sidious' hands and he is defeated. As Sidious falls to the ground in pain, thousands of stormtroopers arrive from Order 41, marching into the room at great speeds. There is literally nothing anyone can do. Sidious, understanding that he is on the verge of death, screams at the top of his lungs for the troopers to fire. The sheer terror that came from the Emperor caused the troopers to immediately react. As Anakin realizes what is happening, he decapitates Sidious, killing him instantly as his limbless body crumbles. The Jedi look at the stormtroopers, who don't fire. With Sidious's death, Order 41 stops, since the Chancellor has been killed. From here, the troopers are now on their side. The contingency orders finally erased from their minds, as there is no living Chancellor that has ordered them to do anything. Therefore, the Battle of Coruscant is won by the Jedi. From here, the Republic would be reinstated after Palpatine's true identity was revealed and the Jedi cleared their name. Padme Amidala is elected as Supreme Chancellor, and she returns to the capital with her children and begins working hard to rebuild following the war. Anakin and Padme remain on Coruscant, where they raise their kids together. Yoda was able to forgive Anakin for his dark deeds after the Chosen One brought balance to the Force. The Grand Master now understood the prophecy almost intended for the Jedi Order to be reduced, that they had gone in the wrong direction and become too rigid and focused on politics. He understood that now and knew how to herald in a new era for the Jedi. Ahsoka Tano also remained with her friends and helped them rebuild, knowing that her time to be a Jedi is now. Together, they all work to ensure that the new Jedi Order's code is modernized and allows attachments, and how attachments, when learned how to control, are good. Families were encouraged, love was encouraged, and this new ideology began to foster peace in the galaxy. Obi-Wan was grateful for all of this, but he still wondered how his life would have differed if Satine was still alive. Perhaps he would move to Mandalore to be with her. Anakin and Padme raise their children, and they grow into powerful and good people. Luke was more like his father, strong and ambitious to become powerful in the Force. But Leia took after her mother, being fascinated by politics and the art of governing. They both became respectable Jedi Masters in their own right. Perhaps one day, Leia would restore the tradition of Jedi becoming Supreme Chancellors of the Republic. All was right in the galaxy, and when Yoda passed on, Obi-Wan and Anakin would become co-chancellors of the Jedi Order. There was peace amongst the galaxy, and this would remain for a millennia. Hey guys, make sure to check out our saber shop Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. We have a bunch of perfect replicas and other insane Padawan sabers for sale. Check them out on our website, first link in the description below, and grab your own one today. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Yoda Found Anakin on Tatooine, or What If Anakin Became Supreme Chancellor. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the largest collection of replicas, Padawan sabers, and more. The link is first in the description. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.